Hey stamping friends, for this fun fold we are going to make three cards. Two are going to be the same fun fold, and then we'll have a bonus card. So what we need to decide by what our materials are, which designer series paper can we cut in half and use for two cards. And I am going to say in my packet it would be this card, because if I cut this in half it'd pretty much be the same design in both. And this will be the bonus card. So now I need to determine for the card that this is cut in half, the designer series paper, which two colors would go best with this. And I am going to pick the Night of Navy and the Mossy Meadow. And for this designer series paper, I'm going to select the Early Espresso. So I'm going to set that aside. And we're going to bring in the paper cutter, paper trimmer, and cut all the materials for the two fun fold cards first. So for the card base, we need a piece that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which would be actually cut in half. So I'm going to use the Night of Navy for the card base. So this is 8 1/2 wide already. So I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4, and it will be right in half. So we have two for our cards. Then our designer series paper is 4 by 3, so this is 4 by 6. So we're going to cut this piece right here at 3, and we will have two pieces for that. I'm going to move these over to this side. So we have one for each card. Our coordinating cardstock, which is the Mossy Meadow, is a piece that is 8 1/2 by 2 3/4, which is half of this width, and it's scored at 4 1/4. So I'm going to score it at 4 1/4 first before I cut it. So I'm going to set it at 4 1/4, score it, then I'm going to rotate it to 2 3/4 and then cut it. That way I have two identical, one for each one of those cards. Now we need a basic white that is 4 by 2 1/2. So I'm going to take one of the basic whites, cut it at 4. Then I'm going to rotate it and cut it at 2 1/2 for one, and then again 2 1/2 for the other one. So there we go. And the decorative image is going to be created out of this piece of cardstock. So I am going to go ahead and set that aside. That's going to be for the bonus card. And we are going to set the paper trimmer aside, and we're going to set that aside. So each of these cards are going to be identical except for how you add your decorative image. You could change it up if you would like. So we're going to start out. The card's going to be orientation will be this direction. We are going to take the designer series paper and adhere it to the top portion with equal spacing on the sides and the top, and use your favorite adhesive. I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal for this, and decide which you want the top to be, and I'm going to place it right like this and have that be the top. Then the piece that's scored is going to be folded. The folded end is going to be on the right, and you could decorate this piece. You could actually, if you could stamp it, you could do multiple different things. I am actually going to take it and run it through the embossing folder. That is the timber folder. Run this through, and once I do that, I have both the top and the bottom embossed. And when you emboss cardstock, it does break down the fiber, so it's not as solid as it was before, but that's okay. We're going to be decorating that portion. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this to the bottom section of the card, and the fold's going to be over on the side, and I will apply my adhesive. Whoops. Let's see. Sometimes things go real smooth until you hit play on the video, and that's when things don't always go quite the same. I am going to bring my Simply Scoring tool back in. Or actually bring it in. I didn't have it in earlier. I really like using a Simply Scoring tool or my Stamparatus for the wall and the corners that it has. So what I'm going to do is turn this upside down. So this is my bottom, this is the top. I want the fold over here. What it allows me to do is put my adhesive on here. I can hold it up so the adhesive does not hit the card. hold it up until I hit this wall. Once I hit this other wall, then I can bring it down. And I really like doing that to get my even spacing here. So that's how I like to assemble that. What I'm doing on this card also needs to be done on this card, because you're going to make two that look the same other than your how you have your decorative embellishments. So for your embellishments, you could put anything that's up high on it, and my other samples show that. For this card sample, I am just going to add a simple embellishment right on the bottom, and I stamped the sentiment, and then I cut it out with a die that is called the Color and Contour dies. It is in the annual catalog, and I didn't bring my take your pick tool over here. I'm going to have to grab that before I do the next video. I'm going to place this right here, and then I'm going to add a ribbon. And goodness, it looks like I didn't even bring my mini glue dots over here. So instead of putting the bow right down here, I'm going to add a ribbon and just put it right over on this side. Just add a little bit more decoration to the card. And when you go to my blog post and look at the samples, the next card I make, I will have the ribbon where I intended. And oh my goodness, as I mentioned, once you hit play, things don't quite go as smoothly. My videos are all unedited, and hopefully this all works out, and you can always fast forward through it. And there we go. So I'm just going to add a little bit of decoration, because you can really embellish this as in many ways. I have samples that are going to show you slightly different options. So here's this card. This card can be is going to be the same base, but you decorate it how you want to. I'm going to show you the bonus card over here. So what we want to do is we want to score this cardstock right in half. You can use your bone folder and fold it and crease it. I'm going to actually score it with the Simply Scoring tool, or goodness, the paper trimmer. The Designer Series paper is cut at 5 1/4, so we'll cut that. And then you have your inside piece that's going to be cut at 4 by 5 1/4, so I'm going to put that at 4. And then let's see, 5 1/4. And typically on my videos, I pre-cut everything before I start my videos, but because we are all starting out with 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 pieces of cardstock, I wanted to show you how I cut things, but there are multiple different ways. This white is cut to be the inside of the card, so I am going to go ahead, because we have early espresso for our card base color, and unless you have a chalk marker or a metallic pen, it's hard to get your signature on the card. So that's the inside, and this is going to be the simple card. These Designer Series papers are absolutely beautiful, and all you really need to do is trim it to size and add it to a card front and add a sentiment to it. So that's exactly what we're doing for our bonus card. And what I did for out of this piece, I stamped, or goodness, I punched. The dual punch is here. Stamped thank you in early espresso for this, and then I sponged early espresso ink onto the other piece, adhere the two together, and I'm going to pop it up with dimensionals. And for Designer Series paper, you start out with a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and when you cut it down to be 4 by 6, you're getting, you know, 1/6 of the paper. So depending on where you cut it depends on what portion of that 12 by 12 print you get. So sometimes you have more white space than others, and that's maybe where you want to put your sentiment. I'm actually just going to pop it right here, and that is a super simple card, just showing the beauty of the paper. As I mentioned, this second card will be identical to that. Here's some samples from the other papers that I created using the Lovely as a Tree and the Beauty of Friendship. Here's the bonus card. Oh, I have extra pieces in there. And I actually cut this one down. Sometimes I cut my basic white smaller. It shows the cardstock color, but then it makes my paper last a little bit longer. And did I mention? Oh, I didn't mention. This piece gets put right in here for your inside sentiment. So you want to use that. Here's another set where these I did slightly different. Here I used the rectangle stitch dies, and here I used the color and contour dies. And here was the bonus card. For this bonus card, I actually did not cut it. I just scored it at 4.5, folded it up, tore the edge. This shows the other side, added the ribbon and sponged. So there's so much you can do. I hope you enjoyed this fun fold. Happy creating!